Hello and welcome to SHRP Talk, the show by washed up athletes for washed up athletes looking to be their best self. On today's episode, I ripped a solo podcast due to a change in plans with a potential guest and my brothers not wanting to hang out with me. So ripped a solo pod and went for about an hour talking just about fasting, my experience with both intermittent and long duration fasts, why I've started to implement it more, some of the benefits of both intermittent and long duration fasting, how I personally like to apply it, and just some guidance and advice that I've gotten from doing this. Hopefully it sparks an interest into some of the benefits and mechanisms that take place during fasting. I think there's just a ton of research that has come out about it, which I dive into, but a lot of cool physical, mental, spiritual benefits that can come from both intermittent fasting and long duration fasts. So I share some of that in here. So hopefully you have some takeaways and maybe it sparks some interest into how you can apply these forms of fasting in your own routine. So thanks for tuning in and hopefully you enjoy. Before we get rolling with today's episode, I want to take a minute to tell you about SHRP Training. Snyder Health, Recovery, and Performance Training is designed for former college athletes to improve their physical, mental, and spiritual health. For only $12 a month, you can choose a training plan that is catered to your needs, interests, and goals, with new programs delivered each month through the TeamBuilder app. You'll also receive 24/7 messaging and feedback from coaches, access to an exclusive Discord to continually learn and be encouraged by others, a 20% discount on Thorne supplements, and access to the Sharp Edge, the ultimate guide to upgrading your diet, sleep, and life. Iron sharpens iron, so let us help you become your sharpest self. Now let's go. And we're back with another edition of SHRP Talk. Today's episode, I have the pleasure of being joined by absolutely nobody. I am here, as you can see, if you're watching the video version, which if you're not on YouTube, haven't subscribed, what are you doing? SHRP_training, check it out. But yeah, if you're watching that, I am here by myself. We had a guest lined up for today, had to reschedule again, push that back to next week. Going to be a sick guest, really looking forward to that episode, but life happens, had to reschedule, and then Brandon was busy with something, so he wasn't able to hop on. And then Jaden just straight up didn't want to talk to me. Don't really blame him. It's the way things go. So we're here by myself. Gonna kick it solo for this episode. I don't really know what I'm doing, so we're just gonna figure it out as we go. This could be terrible. It could just be a learning experience, or maybe it goes really well. Don't know how long it's going to go or if it's going to be helpful, but we're showing up anyway. There's power in consistency. We try to put this thing out every week, and I didn't have a reason to not show up. And so you take 1 week off, that could lead to taking 2 weeks off or 3 weeks off. And so I think there's power in consistency and showing up, even if the conditions aren't perfect. That doesn't mean perfection by no means, but it means just being consistent with it. And so, yeah, with this podcast, we're going to keep it rolling, and we'll see how this goes here. For today, was thinking about a few different things to talk about, and kind of settled on getting into fasting. So fasting is something I've been experimenting more with recent weeks and months. Let me just start by saying that I am by no means a health expert, or this isn't going to be super research-backed stuff. If you want that sort of stuff, I recommend you go elsewhere to like Huberman or something like that, because that is not what this is going to be. This is just going to be my personal experience with fasting. I just simply love experimenting in different ways to just be my best and healthiest self. And I think through experimentation and just learning more about it, and applying it in different ways. I think fasting is an awesome tool, an awesome piece of the puzzle. So again, not research based in any way, just my personal experience. So started off here just by explaining what fasting is. So fasting is simply just going without any food for a certain period of time while still allowing for some forms of intake. So water obviously is going to be essential. It's essential regardless, but especially essential during a fast. Other things, I mean, electrolytes are great for longer fasts. Black coffee and tea, I think, are allowed, and then especially for longer fasts, people will do bone broth to allow for some minerals, but basically just going without any sort of food, any sort of calories for a set period of time. And there's a couple of different time lengths for fasting. So we have intermittent fasting, and then we also have long duration fasts. I'll get into a little bit of both. I've been trying to implement both into my schedule. Intermittent fasting just being shorter windows that you do on a daily basis. So you basically just have a feeding window, a set period during the day that you consume all of your food, and then you have a hard cutoff, and then you go a set period without eating any food. And so for me, that just looks like 12 on, 12 off. So my eating period will be like 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. during the day, and then it's a hard cutoff, and then I won't eat anything beyond that. Most people who intermittent fast will probably go a little longer than that, like 14 to 16 hours. And so intermittent fasting is one method, and then there's also long duration fast, which is going like 24 or more hours without any food. And so this is something I've been doing on Sundays. I've been doing some 36-hour fasts for most of the year. I don't do it every week, but it's something I've been doing. If there's a Sunday and there's nothing going on, then I'll do a 36-hour fast. And so I've probably done that maybe up to 10 times now. It hasn't always been on a Sunday, but I've done that quite a few times now. And so first part is just understanding the difference between intermittent and then long duration. So how did I get down this rabbit hole? A lot of things kind of. I mean, fasting it's been mentioned in the Bible before. It's a big part of that. And so I kind of always knew of fasting, but again, it's more so an Old Testament thing. So I hadn't dove too much into it from the spiritual perspective, but I have been aware of what fasting is, but I hadn't gotten into the health benefits or any sort of application of it until like recent months. I'd say it more so started with probably from Jaden's influence. He helped me a lot with just getting into more of a whole foods based diet, and then just some other lifestyle stuff. So shout out to Jaden. He kind of got me in that rabbit hole and got me thinking about my eating windows, how often I'm eating during the day, as well as what I'm eating, of course. And then also just that fasting period. I think he likes to, no, he doesn't work out in the morning. He likes to like delay when he eats his breakfast. So I don't want to speak for him. I could be getting this wrong, but I don't think he eats till like 10. And I think he has a cutoff of, same as me, maybe like 7 the night before. So he does a little longer intermittent fast. And so kind of got that from him, just from talking about some strategies and how I can adjust that, and just got me more into thinking the benefits of intermittent fasting. And then also during this time frame, listen to the Yoakum Strength podcast. Austin Yoakum, big fan of his in that podcast, so check that out. But he had an episode probably back in December or January with a dude who did a 40-day fast, which is absolutely insane. But yeah, it was cool to just hear about his personal experience with that from, I mean, physical, mental, spiritual side of going through that. And so that, I don't know, it just got me thinking into what it would look like to do that on a smaller scale. I don't know if I ever want to rip a 40-day fast, but just cool to hear from someone firsthand just the benefits he experienced from doing that. And then just getting more, as I've gotten into the rabbit hole of, healthier, holistic living and eating healthier, resources like Huberman, other podcasts, just have learned more about fasting and what it is, what the benefits are, and how it can be applied. And so that's kind of how I got into that rabbit hole. And so starting with the intermittent fasting, like I said, I've started applying that with a 12-hour eating window, again, from roughly 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. And so some of the benefits with that, obviously not quite as drastic maybe as a longer fast, but it is helpful in the sense that it's more sustainable. This is something you can do every single day with whatever your schedule looks like for you. 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. is just what works for me. I can eat in the morning, eat a smoothie or drink a smoothie before I work out, and then have my last meal, and then go to bed around 10 to 10:30 and can go to sleep in a fasted state. So that just works with me, or works for me. You can do a longer fast. 12 is probably the minimum time frame that you want to go for if you're trying to apply this, but you can go 14 hours, 16 hours, 18 hours. There's no one right way to do it. And again, you can adjust it with your schedule. If you have to get up super early, then maybe you can just do a sooner cutoff later in the day. Or if you like eating late in the day, then maybe you can try to start eating a later breakfast instead. And so it's just experimenting and figuring out what's best with your schedule. So the benefits of doing this, I mean, there's a few. Again, this isn't going to be super research based or anything like that. Just some general benefits. First of all, just gut health and helping with digestion. It comes from that. Better blood sugar regulation. There's some fat burning benefits as your glycogen stores. So basically our energy stores from eating mostly carbs, those start to get depleted throughout a fast. And so fat burning doesn't really kick in immensely, but there's definitely some fat burning benefits, especially if you get into that longer time frame, like 14 plus hours. But you can still, you can get those benefits from a 12 plus hour intermittent fast. And then I think just like preventing mindless snacking and like food discipline. I feel like it's easy late in the day when you're off work and just hanging out watching TV. It's easy to just get up and go and grab a snack while you're watching TV. But if you have kind of a set rule to stick to, and again, it doesn't have to be perfect every single day you're sticking to this, but if I know every day, hey, I'm eating at 6:30, that's the last thing I'm going to eat. If I want, some treat or sweet to eat with that, that's fine. But that's my cutoff. I'm not eating anything past that. Just helps with food discipline and mindless snacking, and just helps you, just when you're bored to not get up and go and grab something to eat. So it's helpful from that sense. And then one of the most potent benefits I've seen is just going to sleep fasted has drastically improved my sleep pretty significantly. I wear a Apple Watch every night, and like the sleep quality has immensely improved. And maybe there's other factors going on, but I think a big piece of it is going to sleep fasted. So by the time I go to bed, like I said, that 6:30 to 7 cutoff, and then going to bed 10 to 10:30, it's going to be 3 or more hours that I'm in that fasted state. And so what I used to do was, being like obsessed with getting enough protein right before bed, I'd have like some EAAs, so essential amino acids. You've probably heard of BCAAs, which is the 3 branched chain amino acids, but there's 8 essential amino acids. And so I would take that before bed with like, they tasted awful. They tasted like death. So I would wash them down with some fruit snacks, and I would, or something with some taste to get rid of the terrible taste of those. And so I would do that literally right before I went to sleep. And so not realizing that taking my body out of that fasted state and digesting food, it's going to affect my ability to sleep instead of, with like melatonin production. This is interfered when we're digesting food. And so if you go to bed, at 6:30 and, or if you eat your last meal at 6:30, not digesting anything, then we go to sleep in a fasted state. And then, there's not interference with that melatonin production. And so lower heart rate going into sleep, deeper sleep. It helps with growth hormone release at night, going to sleep fasted. And I've just personally noticed I get quality sleep and wake up feeling more rested. So something I personally experienced. With those longer fasts, there's some more benefits. So getting up to like 14, 16, 18, there's some more autophagy, which we'll get into more with the longer duration fast. This is just basically the process of cleaning up dead cells. I think that's the best way to put it, but just cleaning up dead cells, which kind of happens through like exercise, but mainly happens through fasting. I don't know if there's a ton of other ways to kick in that process, but just basically helps with, removing dangerous or dead cells, and then helps basically with like the effects of aging, helps slow that down. There's also more fat loss, like we hit on earlier. That fat loss amount is going to increase the longer the fast. There's going to be more ketone production, which this is the energy store we're going to rely on as, again, our glycogen stores become depleted. We start to rely on fats more and these ketones for energy. This also helps to improve mental clarity. But again, if you're sleeping through it, then obviously doesn't matter as much. And then could help improve with an insulin sensitivity over time. And then if you're looking to like lean out, lose weight, or just simplify some eating habits, that can be helpful as well, because obviously the longer fasting window, the shorter the eating window you have. And so limiting the amount of hours that you spend eating could just help you with calorie intake and things like that. And so it could be a good way to lean out and lose fat. So that's kind of the piece on intermittent fasting. Again, ton of benefits, just being able to implement that every day. Now with the long duration fasting, again, this has been something more recent. Again, this sparked my interest just from other resources out there and hearing other people trying it and just getting more into the positive effects of it. And so again, for me, I'll do this from like all of Sunday, I won't eat anything. And so I'll eat my last meal Saturday night. I'll usually pig out with something. That's kind of my cheat meal. I'll do ice cream or get some fast food or eat out somewhere just because I know it's going to be my last meal for a while. But it's also really nice because there is zero guilt that comes with doing that, because I know whatever sort of calorie surplus I get from that, it's probably not going to equate with what sort of calorie deficiency I'm going to get the next day. And so it kind of helps with that cheat meal, getting that every week. But again, this comes out to about a 36-hour fast from Saturday night around 7 to Monday morning around 7 a.m. I'll break that fast with a smoothie, just some light food to get out of that. Recently I've been trying to do this most Sundays, but again, this isn't a hard set thing that I have to do every single week. I just try to do it when I can, when I know Sundays are going to be a more chill, relaxed day where there's not a lot going on. So it works nicely. But there's situations where maybe you're in a social setting, like we had the, Super Bowl a few weeks ago, and obviously there's going to be a lot of good food there watching the game. So I cut that down to a 24-hour fast leading up to that instead of going the full 36 hours and other life things. So I think with this, I think it's just important to not make it a hard set rule if it's something you want to implement. But yeah, it's helpful to find a day of the week that works best for you, and Sunday is just what's best for me. And yeah, just adjusting with needed. And then, like I said, break it with the smoothie. Just is easier on digestion and doesn't making sure it doesn't shock the system when you get out of that fasted state. And that seemed to work well for me. It's the same smoothie that I do every single morning before my workout, and I've felt completely fine going into the rest of that day. So that's just kind of how I like to apply it. And during that fast, I'll get into more of the practical stuff, but I don't do like the tea or coffee. I've done like electrolytes, like potassium, or I'll put some Himalayan salt in water. But with that short of a fast, I don't think it's necessary to get the electrolytes. You can, especially if you're working out. Like I'll still Sunday morning. That's my zone 2 day. So I'll just, at least as of now, so I'll just do like 45 to 60 minutes on the elliptical, and that really gets me in the fastest state because I deplete all of my glycogen stores from that workout, my fuel source from that workout, from the cheat meal the night before. And then yeah, so I'll work out, and then I'll maybe do Himalayan salt or potassium around that. But recent weeks I haven't been doing that, and I haven't noticed a difference just drinking a ton of water. But again, there are options with longer fasts to include some other things that help, like electrolytes, bone broth, stuff like that. And so again, it's kind of up to you with just doing research and seeing what you need and what works best for you. But that's just kind of how I like to approach it. Again, that 36-hour window, and just sticking to water and gutting through it. And if life event comes up and I want to eat something, I'm in a social setting, then I'll go ahead and do it and cut it down. So that's just kind of how I've liked to apply it. Now with the benefits of the long-term fast. So there's kind of 3 different categories that I'll get into. So I see it mainly from the physical side, the mental side, and then the spiritual side. So I'll start with the physical benefits. So physical benefits of long-term fast, the autophagy, the thing that I mentioned earlier, so that cellular cleaning up those dead cells. This process begins around the 18 to 24 hour mark. The body will start breaking down and basically recycling these damaged cells. And like I said, this kind of reduces the risk of diseases and slow aging just by getting rid of those dead cells that you don't need anymore. And like I said, I don't know of many other things you can do that get you into that state. I may just not be as educated on that. Like I said, exercise can help you get into that phase of autophagy more, especially if you're pairing that with a fast. Like Jaden has mentioned before, when he's worked out in the mornings, he'll not eat anything before that, and that'll increase the effectiveness of that autophagy process and just make that more intense. So outside of that, I don't know of many other things that can help with that other than long-term fasting. Again, of at least 18 hours is when that process starts and just gets more and more intense as you go. So for me, like I said, I've been doing this on a weekly basis, but some people will do it maybe like every 3 months. They'll do like a 72-hour fast or something like that, or once a year doing like a week-long fast, just because that autophagy is going to be more intense the longer you go. For me, I just like doing a weekly thing with that 36 hours, and maybe I'll experiment more with longer fasts down the road if, something comes up and I want to try it out. But it works nicely from what I have to just stick to doing it once a week. Other benefits, fat loss. So we hit on that with intermittent fasting, but this is going to be even more intense with a long duration fast. Like I said, your glycogen stores, your stores from your eating carbs, your primary fuel source, this is going to be depleted, and it's going to force the body to use your stored fat for energy. So again, if you're trying to lose fat, this is a great way to lean out or lose weight. It's going to force the body to use that stored fat for energy. And so it'll also help with improving insulin sensitivity, which again is a big thing. I don't need it to get into the nitty gritty on insulin, but basically we want our body to react appropriately to insulin, and this is just going to help us prevent some metabolic diseases, diabetes being the main one, but some other things as well. With this, with long duration fasts, there's going to be a growth hormone boost. So this actually happens around the 24-hour mark, I want to say. Growth hormone increases up to 300 to 500% from what I've seen. So I think the mechanism for this is basically, since you're not eating protein, you don't have that source to help with muscles not breaking down and just giving them the fuel they need. Your body will start to increase growth hormone production. What growth hormone does is helps with fat metabolism, so increases that fat burning process. It helps with muscle retention. So like for me initially, I was super worried that doing this on a consistent basis, doing this long-term fast would affect like muscle size, and especially doing it so consistently. But because of that growth hormone effect, and because it's not a crazy long duration, basically there's not much muscle breakdown that comes with it because of that growth hormone. And this can also help with recovery and repair if you have, an injury or sort of muscular issue going on. This can actually help with the recovery and repair of that. I also like that there's a kind of a gut health and digestion mechanism with this, just giving your body that break. That's again kind of why I like doing it on a weekly basis. It gives your digestive system a break, especially for me, because I, during the week, am eating basically every 3 hours pretty much, because I trying to get that goal of 200 grams of protein, and I like being in protein synthesis often because I'm training every day and I'm trying to recover. And so I'm eating often during the week, and I know that can probably be overwhelming for the body. And so just by giving it a break to kind of get a reset, allowing gut bacteria to rebalance, that kind of takes place when we give our body time away from digesting food all of the time. That intermittent fasting kind of helps with that, but this is just a more intense version, a longer break for the body. And then there's kind of less bloating for some people and just better digestion after that fast. Can also help with reducing inflammation. If you have high levels of inflammation from anything, this can help to lower that, and can even help with autoimmune conditions and chronic pain. From podcasts I've listened to back in, I don't even know the era, but people used to fast when they had, I don't know if it was Native American populations or what, but they would fast when they had like chronic health condition or chronic pain and autoimmune conditions. And it was very effective in improving those for a lot of people. And now with more of the science coming out, we can kind of see the benefit behind that. And so, yeah, it's super interesting to see kind of what, from a just general health perspective, that can do. And then there's also some heart health benefits. It's going to lower your resting heart rate, which I've seen an insane amount. Like my resting heart rate is usually like 47 to 49, usually not quite 50. But then on those fasting days, it'll dip down to the low 40s. I haven't quite gotten into the 30s yet, but it's usually 41, 42, 43. And I think part of that's just from I also obviously not taking caffeine during those days or any other supplements unless it's electrolytes. And so I think that helps. And it's nice to get that break from caffeine built in as well. But body gets super relaxed. There's no blood going to the stomach for digesting food. And so the body just gets super relaxed. And I've been taking naps on some of these days. I'm not a big nap guy. I pretty much never nap, but I just get, maybe it's from not taking caffeine and maybe it's just from being relaxed, but body is in a very chill and relaxed state, which is nice to have once a week when just go, working out every other day the rest of the week. And so, yeah, helping with heart rate, blood pressure, and cholesterol. So ton of physical benefits. From the mental side, a few different things here. From kind of a brain perspective and actual physiological processes, but also just from like a discipline and mental toughness standpoint. And so first thing first, I think it just helps with a healthy relationship of food. I think Cole Snyder said on a podcast, like food is not for fun or something like that. And that's kind of a fun way of just saying that I think we often eat for pleasure too often or based on emotion too often. Like if I'm sad, I'm going to go eat something. If I'm bored, I'm going to go eat something. If I'm happy, I'm going to go celebrate by eating something. And so it kind of helps break that cycle and really helps teach you the difference between actual hunger, like what you experience when you're actually hungry, and just cravings. So I think it teaches you what that difference is. And for me, obviously, I've gotten used to the hunger. It's a little more intense on those Sundays. You get through it. And it's harder when, people around you are eating good food or, it can be hard to stick to, but it gives you a glimpse of what actual hunger looks like. Again, this is a relatively short, long duration fast, but it gives you perspective during the week of, okay, if I can go 36 hours without eating, I can go another, 30 minutes without food if I'm driving somewhere, or if I want a snack or something between meals. It's like, okay, this is just a craving. This isn't actual hunger. And so I think it's helpful from that perspective and just improving your relationship with food. And again, if you're trying to lose weight or lose fat, the mental side of that and your relationship with the food, that's such a big piece of it. And this can definitely help out with that. I think from the discipline and mental toughness standpoint, I think there's just generally benefits in doing hard things. And we live very comfortable lives, relatively speaking, to people around the rest of the world or people in previous points in time. So we have very easy lives. And I think there's benefits to just pushing yourself to do hard things, especially if you're a former athlete listening to this, where, you're not as used to those grinder workouts or practices. I think there's benefit in keeping that drive to just do hard things and become more resilient. It's voluntary hardship doing these long duration fasts, and choosing discomfort and doing something hard can just build resilience. So it's nice from that perspective, and it can build self-control. I hit on that with the hunger, but it carries over to a lot of areas of life. Just delayed gratification, like that Monday morning smoothie just absolutely slaps when you go for eating without eating for 36 hours, and you learn to just develop self-control and that delayed gratification. That's something we can all learn from, and this is a great tool to improve in that area, in my opinion. There's also some cool like mental clarity and focus that comes with it, and I've kind of experienced this later in the day, like Sunday from 4 p.m. to like 8 p.m. or later on. There's like ketones are fueling the body at this point, and they can actually fuel the brain, which can lead to sharper thinking later on in the fast. And I feel, again, I'm pretty tired and lethargic kind of during the first, in that like 12 to 18-hour mark. That's when hunger for me is most intense and really just worn down, tired kind of. But after that point, you kind of get out of that hunger phase, you kind of get used to it, and there's just less brain fog and just a lot of mental clarity. And so that's something that's been really cool to experience as well. And I can be really productive and think my best during those times, which is cool. And then last thing, just can lower cortisol, which is a stress hormone, and can help improve some emotional stability just from subjecting yourself to doing that. So ton of mental and just discipline benefits from doing these longer fasts. Finally, from the spiritual side. So like I said early on, I kind of first was introduced to the concept of fasting from the Bible, used by followers of God basically as a way to seek guidance, to repent, to grow spiritually. And it's not specific to just Christianity. It's seen in a bunch of different religious practices, just as a way for improving strength and wisdom and breakthrough moments, and just kind of helps build a relationship with God. And so like biblical examples, I mean, Moses fasted for 40 days before he received the 10 commandments from God. Daniel did a fast for 21 days. He ate only vegetables and water. And a lot of people think it's just an Old Testament practice, but there's some New Testament examples. Jesus fasted for 40 days in the wilderness before starting his ministry. I love that 40 number. That's kind of why we do the Holy 40. But that's a crazy long time. And then like the early church, after Jesus died and rose again, the early church in Acts fasted before, basically making big decisions as a way to kind of connect more with God, get that mental clarity. And so there's a ton of examples in the Bible, and there's plenty of examples I haven't mentioned, and so it'll be kind of cool as well as I've been getting into this to keep my eyes open for other examples of that in the Bible and learn from that as well. Some of the benefits I've experienced from the spiritual side, I think, like I hit on that with the emotional eating, it can help shift our focus away from food as an idol. Like gluttony is one of the 7 deadly sins, and food is a big part of that. And I think we often view food as an idol, always thinking about our next meal, always, when we see a commercial of our favorite restaurant or something, it's constantly on our mind, or your favorite snack, just always thinking about that. What I've experienced is this can help shift your focus away from worldly things like food, and it just kind of removes those idols, and just I think it's good for anything to just have a period away from it, to just remember what your true purpose is and who you truly serve, not yourself or other idols, but serving God. And this is just a great reminder of that. And getting into that, there's no better reminder than hunger. Like, I think of writing something on your hand, and maybe you forget about it, and maybe you look up and see it later, or like the reminder app on your phone. I use that all the time, and I'll just, after it's there for a few hours, I'll just glance over it. But there is no more powerful reminder than hunger, than your tummy rumbling. And it's just a reminder, and that's kind of why I like pairing it with Sunday. It's the Sabbath. It's a day to, instead of eating, you can turn to prayer, and it's like, okay, why am I doing this again? And I've listed out all these other health benefits and mental benefits, but it's also a spiritual thing for me, being able to apply this more, and just instead of eating and thinking about food, it's a chance to just practice turning to prayer and thinking about God every time that tummy rumbles or you think about food. It's like, oh, yeah, we can, let's just say a quick prayer. God, help me through this. Even though it really isn't that hard, relatively speaking. But yeah, it's just a good way to recenter on those Sundays, that Sabbath. It's just more time for reflection and gratitude. That's again why I like pairing it with Sundays. There's less going on, no work, and kind of more laid back, and it gives you time to reflect and talk to God, get in the Word, journal, whatever it is. Just think, just shut off the noise, and just sit in stillness and see what maybe God may be trying to speak to you. And then, I mean, back to the Sabbath thing, growing up, being an athlete, there's a lot of stuff on Sundays, whether it's lifting and workouts, practices, games, even tournaments. Kind of grew up without actually practicing a Sabbath. And again, it's more so an Old Testament concept, but I think it still rings true and has a ton of benefits in just having that reset once a week. And that doesn't mean I'm still doing things on Sunday. Like, I'm still probably editing this podcast or doing other things for Sharp, or maybe answering just a few quick work emails. But this is kind of my way of practicing a Sabbath. And so even though I'm still doing stuff and maybe doing a few like work related things, it's kind of a different kind of rest. It's a sacrifice. I think we're called to sacrifice part of our lives when we choose to follow God. And so it's a form of sacrifice, and just kind of saying, hey, God, I don't need to do this. This isn't a requirement. This isn't the law. But out of love for you and wanting to grow my relationship with you, I want to sacrifice this day, this part of my life, eating for just this period, and just use it to devote it to you. And I think that's helped in my faith journey and given some perspective, and kind of instilling that Sabbath when I truly never really have in a deep sense. And so that's something I've definitely gotten some benefits from as well. And so that's kind of what I've experienced. I'm sure there's some benefits that I've missed. And again, you can, with all the noise today, you can educate yourself and look into resources on why fasting is beneficial. But just into the practical side for these long duration fasts, again, if this is something you want to try, especially if it's a long period, be smart with it. Do your research. Maybe if there's like medical concerns, check with a medical professional and make sure this is actually a good idea. But again, these are just some tips that I've learned from other resources and have applied and have found to be helpful. So like I said, hydration is going to be key during this. Drinking even more water than normal throughout the day is going to be huge. So just keeping a water bottle or whatever with you, and just making that an intentional thing. Just continuing to drink water. I don't totally know what the research says on like 0-calorie drinks. I don't think it gets you out of that fasted state, but I also don't think the research is totally clear on that. So for me, I will just stay away from anything flavored and just stick to regular water. Um, but again, I'm not a total expert on that, so maybe those flavored 0 calorie things work. But yeah, that's something I can look more into as well. Black coffee or tea can help to suppress hunger, and then for, like I said, longer fasts, 36 hours probably don't need electrolytes, but it could be beneficial, especially if you're working out and sweating out electrolytes during that period. It could be helpful. So getting like salt, sodium, potassium, um, basically just getting some different electrolytes. And there's like smart waters and different more expensive waters and gas stations that you can get that have a lot of those electrolytes, and having those is fine. But I have Himalayan salt that I'll put in my water for workouts, so just do that. And then I have some potassium pills. I'll do 1 or 2 of those. But again, I've kind of gotten away from that and I've been fine. But if I ever do experiment with longer fasts, then I'll maybe be more intentional about that. And I think like Element is a drink mix that has those in, so maybe I would just try those out, order a few of those to take during the fast. But that's kind of key for longer fasts. From the hunger side, especially doing it early on, the first the first time was brutal. I remember doing a 30-hour famine back in youth group. That was kind of one of the things we did. And I only ever did it once, and I think I even cut it short because I had some sporting event or something to go to. But I just remember being miserable just because, we're used to eating all the time, and I hadn't dealt with that kind of hunger before. And so hunger is gonna be part of it. There's kind of waves that come usually around meal times, just because your body is intelligent. It knows what times you're usually going to eat. And so for me, like, 6:30, 9:30, 12:30, I eat at these 3-hour intervals, and that's usually kind of when they come. And even just like having other people eat food around me, that can increase it. But it comes in waves. And honestly, I reach a point probably past like 2 or 3 in the afternoon where I just get used to it, don't even notice it anymore, really. And honestly, I'll wake up and feel totally normal. Like, I thought right away I'd be just chomping at the bit to drink that smoothie as fast as possible or eat something as fast as possible. But honestly, it's not really like that. You kind of just settle in and get used to the feeling. And yeah, those bouts of hunger definitely pass. And again, it gives you perspective on what real hunger is and what people who are less fortunate, or people with more difficult circumstances, what they actually have to go through these long periods of not having food. So just a nice perspective from that point. And so it helps you realize, again, the difference between hunger and cravings. And so those waves pass. And honestly, if you need to, keeping busy can help. So I honestly am busy up until noon those days, between that morning workout and church and hanging with family. And then honestly, with football season, it was awesome because I was distracted just from watching football all day. And so it usually went pretty fast. But since that's been done, it's been a little tougher. But keeping busy with something, hang out with someone, hang out with your family. You can do, I'm sure I'll be golfing once it gets a little warmer out to stay busy, but not doing too intensive activity. Read something, watch something. Just, again, that's why I kind of like it for a Sabbath. Just take that time to relax and do something you normally don't get to during the week. So find a new hobby, something chill to do a puzzle, or build some Legos. I don't know. Find something to do during those fasts to keep the mind busy and keep your mind off it if you need to. And then I've noticed a few times I actually go to sleep just fine still. That Sunday night of the fast, I still take magnesium and L-theanine before I go to bed and kind of still do my normal routine with that. And I go to sleep fine. I wake up a little more often. I don't know if that's something with my body or kind of the hunger surfacing a little bit, but it can affect the sleep a little bit. And so if you need a really good night's rest for something, may not be the best idea, but again, maybe that's just me. And I think I've gotten used to it and I've slept better, just by getting used to it and doing it more often. And so just something to keep in mind. But yeah, that's kind of from the practical side, some things to keep in mind. These have all been, I haven't gone beyond about 36 hours. I would like to at some point. I like how it matches up with, again, I still work out, but it's not a traditional workout. But I think maybe, if I'm ever out of town for something or I can't work out for any reason, maybe just try a longer fast. Maybe try, what's 36 plus 24, 56, 60 hour fast instead. Just adding another day to it, or even getting up to like 72 or more hours. I don't know if I'll ever get to 40 days or even like a week, but during these longer fasts, like I said, there's that deeper autophagy, that cell repair. Body gets more efficient burning fat. So if you're trying to lose much weight, then obviously not eating can be helpful. And greater ketone production for that mental clarity. But again, from the precaution side, you have to be a lot more careful with how you're approaching it. You definitely have to have more of a plan going into it. Those electrolytes become more essential, and then also how you break the fast becomes more important. Like, you can't just eat crazy coming out of it, because I don't know what would happen, but I can't imagine it would go well. So stick it or break it with a smoothie or bone broth or something light to get out of that fasted state. And so I will maybe report back if I do get the opportunity to do those longer fasts, but this is kind of what works for me and my routine right now. Just, again, I like that I have the intermittent fasting incorporated into my routine, and now I have the long duration incorporated into a routine. And who knows, maybe that could change next week. I decide I don't want to do it anymore and I get out of it, and then maybe I decide to do it 3-day fast every 3 months instead. And so I think this is what has worked for me. I like the routine of it and incorporating it into a Sunday, a Sabbath, and just getting that break from food. But again, everyone's different. Everyone has different needs and schedules. So I think it's just figuring out what works best for you. So that's kind of my unfiltered general experience and thoughts on it. Just some final thoughts. It's a tool you can use to improve, again, the physical, mental, spiritual health, but it doesn't have to be a rule. It doesn't have to be something you absolutely have to stick to. There's, again, if you're in a social situation, you shouldn't feel obligated to do it. It can be a cool way to bring up maybe the spirituality of it and why you're doing it, and just explaining the benefits of it. So it can be cool in that sense. But also, if you're the only one not eating in a restaurant with a whole group of people, it could get weird real fast. So just use it as a tool, not a rule. And if life happens, adjust as you go and don't be too hard at yourself. I think if it's something you are wanting to implement, just starting small, maybe just incorporating that intermittent fasting, finding a fasting window and eating window that works for you, whether it's 12 hours, 14 hours, 16 hours, incorporating more and see how that makes you feel. And then if you want to dip your toes into the long duration fast, just trying out, 18 hours to 24 hours and building it up and seeing how you feel and how it goes from there. I think it's important to just listen to your body. Like, for me, I didn't really plan on taking more naps during these fasts, but my body is so relaxed and I get tired during it. And so I have incorporated naps more just from listening to my body. There's going to be hunger that comes with it, but just not, you don't have to give in to that hunger. Just there's a difference between discomfort and true hunger. And so just realizing that it's probably more just discomfort, and that can be a part of growth, just living in that discomfort. And again, just embracing doing hard things. Again, if you have a medical condition or not sure if it's the best for your current situation, please seek medical advice and don't take this as advice on what you should do. Do your own research, seek your own help, and see how you can adapt it to fit your needs. And then, if this has sparked some interest in you and it's something you want to try out, feel free to hit me up as a resource. If you're experimenting with the intermittent fasting, long duration, give it a try. Let me know how it goes. Let me know if you need any tips or need any help. Let me know how you like to apply it with your own situation. If you like a longer intermittent fasting window, or if you like doing a fast once a month for a little longer period instead of every week. Just let me know, see how it goes. But again, I love experimenting with these things that have proven benefits and trying them out and seeing for myself, not just taking those benefits at their word, but actually applying it consistently and sticking to it, and just realizing for myself if this is something that's beneficial, and this is something that I found beneficial and I think that I will stick to. But again, that's for you to decide if this is something that you're interested in trying out. And again, maybe you try it and hate it, go away from it. Well, at least at least you tried it out. But for sure, just if it's something you're interested, just get in touch with me and let me know how it goes. That's all I got. Ripped about close to an hour. Man, I'm pretty proud of myself. And if you are still listening to this, shout out to you for sticking with me for this long. And let me know if you like the solo version of this. And if not, I will never ever do it again. Or maybe I'll do it anyway because I simply don't care. And if no one wants to tune in, that's fine. It's forced me to articulate some of the things I've experienced and am thinking. And so if no one else gets a benefit, then at least I have gotten to experience some sort of benefit from it. But that's all I got. Thanks for tuning in. If you're here, got a great guest lined up for next week, which is going to be awesome. And hopefully my brothers are able to come back and join me for that. But thanks for tuning in. Till next time, adios. Thanks for listening to the show. If you enjoyed today's episode, leave a rating, review, or tell a friend to check us out. Be sure to follow us at SHRP_training for more content to help you be your best self. Go be great today.